Hey guys, I'm Mike, and this is No Limits, the Mitch Rapp podcast. Unfortunately, Chris is unavailable this week as he and his family are under the weather. So we're going to have to push back our Consent to Kill episodes by a week. I know, disappointing, but we're really looking forward to bringing you those episodes as soon as we can. As you know, Consent to Kill is a fan favorite and definitely a Mitch Rapp pod favorite, so we are pumped to bring that to you. We're just not going to get it out until next week when Chris and I can record back together again. So, for today, we're going to release an extended teaser of our first 3 Rapp on Rapp episodes. As you may have heard, Rapp on Rapp is a Patreon patron exclusive podcast series where we record 10 to 15 minute chats about random topics, about all things Rapp. So today you'll hear our first episode on secondary characters in the Rapp universe that we would love to see a spin-off novel about, maybe get the backstory of. Our second episode, we talk about our favorite and perhaps the most fitting Rapp titles, so book titles. And finally, our last in the Rapp on Rapp series, episode 3, was an extended cut of some post-credit after recording banter with Brian C. You remember Brian from episode 36 of the Com Majors podcast. So you can get a little bit more of our chat with him if you like that. He's a big reader, big Rapp fan, and a big movie buff. Well, if you do enjoy these Rapp on Rapp chats, as always, we invite you to become a patron and help support the podcast. You'll get access to the complete Rapp on Rapp podcast series, and you'll get other perks such as Mitch Rapp Pod stickers and a Rapp reading checklist bookmark. I use mine to check off all the books that we've reread and covered on the series, so you can get your own Rapp bookmark from us. Just click the Support Us on Patreon button at mitchrappod.com to learn more and get involved. Speaking of our patrons, before we jump in and give you those teasers, we were so excited last week to announce our $500 contribution to the Prostate Cancer Foundation. We're equally excited to turn a new page to our partnership with Operation Paperback. So fantastic. This group has already helped put 3 million gently used books in the hands of our active duty troops and veterans. And so we're really happy that. And just to clarify what we're going to be doing, we are going to be using some of the Patreon proceeds to send monthly care packages to a few troops, active duty troops, containing a couple of Mitch Rapp books each. So we would like to commit 15 to 20 Mitch Rapp books that we will send in care packages to a couple of soldiers on our front lines. So a couple of things you can do to get involved. One, you can just go to operationpaperback.org and read about their mission. They even have a registration form if you have extra books on hand. Doesn't have to be Rapp books or thrillers. They can find a home for any gently used book that you're willing to part with. So you can sign up and become a volunteer directly with them. However, if you do have additional Rapp books, you've already gifted some of your extra copies of your Rapp books to friends and family, and you're still looking to offload others, you can ship them directly to us here at the podcast, and we will make sure they get in one of our monthly care packages that we will be sending out to troops. So if you are interested in that and getting your books to us to put into a care package, you can just email us at mitchrappod@gmail.com. So lots of ways you can get involved, whether it's becoming a patron and helping us financially support this effort, going to operationpaperback.org, registering yourself to be a volunteer shipper, or getting your Rapp books to us here at the podcast to add to our care packages. So the good thing here is the Postal Service, USPS, has a media mail option. So anytime you're shipping out books, including to our military bases, because they have a U.S. zip code, they're considered domestic territory, you can use media mail. And it's really cheap. regardless of the weight of the package. If you have books in the box, just tell the clerk at any post office that you would like to ship media rate, and you get a really significantly reduced rate on shipping books through the Postal Service. So if you get involved, reach out to us. And if you do end up registering and sending in any books through Operation Paperback, we'd love to know about that. So we'd love to hear it. So again, reach out on social media or drop us a note at mitchrappod@gmail.com. All right, the last announcement we'll make before giving you the teaser of our Rapp on Rapp episodes is the hashtag Rapp Workout Challenge. You might have seen right before New Year's, I think I posted it a couple of days after Christmas, the Rapp Workout Challenge. We asked you to, instead of a New Year's resolution, give us a workout routine involving the first name of a Rapp book, one of the most recent Rapp books you read, or anyone that you like, and then the most recent form of exercise you've done. And we got a whole lot of exciting workout names. I'll give you a few runners up that we liked. Total deadlifts, pursuit cycling, total golf, consent to walk, lethal push-ups, red tennis. That was a good one. Lethal walking. We had some good ones, but the Mitch Rapp Pod sticker, we picked a winner. The Mitch Rapp Pod sticker will be going to Tim Reedy, one of our Facebook followers who chimed in. Tim's workout was extreme racquetball. Couldn't beat that. The only thing better than extreme racquetball would be lethal racquetball, which is, you put Scott Coleman and Mitch together on a racquetball court or in that room. Anyway, Tim, congratulations. We liked your creativity there. We will be mailing you and reaching out to get you a Mitch Rapp Pod sticker. All right, guys. Well, that about sums it up. So please enjoy these next few minutes of teasers from our first 3 episodes of the patron-exclusive Rapp on Rapp series, and we'll be back next week with our first Part 1 breakdown of Consent to Kill. Enjoy.
Hey guys, I'm Chris.
And I'm Mike.
And welcome to
Rapp on Rapp.
Yes, so we've been wanting to do one of these for you guys for a while, for our patrons. Just a quick, 10, 15 minutes, just talking about Rapp. 2 of us, me and Mike. And we'd love to, if you want to send some feedback on these, and we'd love to hear about you. We can, in the future, we could just have you guys on, talk about this kind of stuff. But, just to kick it off, Mike had sort of come up with this idea of what characters we would like to see for a spin-off / standalone novel. And he had posted this on his Twitter, on our Twitter, and we'd gotten a couple of responses. And what were the top choices, Mike?
So, obviously, we got the standards, that everyone wants to see, and you and I have talked about, and Kyle has even mentioned. So, the top ones, of course, Scott Coleman. Everyone was writing Scott Coleman, early days, commander of SEAL Team 6, what that was like, some of the missions he was on. A couple people wrote back, hey, we have a Scott Coleman book, Term Limits, check it out. And,
right.
Of course, some people were like, oh, I haven't read it. But others were still like, yeah, I read Term Limits, but I want to see what drove him off the deep end, right? What hardened him so much that when he got out of the teams, he turned to political assassination. So there's a story there, right? There's a big story there.
No, there is a story there.
Yeah. And the other one, of course, you and I have talked about it. Kyle told us he wants to write a Cold War, early days espionage thriller, and a young Stan Hurley. Man, that would be something. And, while he's in his earlier years, he was a mentor to Irene as a little girl. So it's like you can have a young Irene come up in that storyline. And then Thomas Stansfield, he crossed paths with. We know they had a very interesting relationship. We'll just leave it at that. But seeing a young Stansfield at the same time, the founding of the CIA, from the OSS to the CIA, behind the Iron Curtain operations. It'd be really cool to see Stansfield getting his feet wet in espionage.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I feel like I have yet to see or I have yet to read or see in like television. I love I've mentioned this a couple times on the pod. I love the show Homeland, and like Saul Berenson I think he's a little bit younger than Stansfield, but he plays that similar character where he worked behind the line in Germany and in Russia, and I would love to just see that kind of. I love CIA stuff. Why do you think I'm doing this pod? I love spycraft, and to see a young Thomas Stansfield and the beginning of what the CIA was to become in the Wild Bill Donovan days, that would be great.
Yeah, definitely. And like I mentioned, it'd be pretty cool, I guess a little later on in the Cold War, but Irene growing up in Beirut, right? Mm-hmm. I think her mother was Lebanese, if I'm not mistaken.
Uh-huh.
And her father worked in Beirut, and the attack that shaped her, her father, I don't know if we ever learn he died in the actual real attack, the one on our embassy in Beirut. That it was part of that. So, I mean, it'd be really cool to see a historical-based thriller about those events. And then, like, Reagan sending in the Marines, and, there's a whole history there that would be cool for a historical thriller. And to drop a young Irene in the middle of it, Uncle Stan, popping in, that'd be really cool to hear that story.
Yeah, even like a whole book just about like the buildup of her father, like from it could have been, like a Rogue One type prequel where what's going to happen, but we're just fleshing out like the minor details. That would have been cool.
Can you imagine him like having a scene with Reagan in the White House, getting appointed to whatever position, and then
right,
or can you imagine Stansfield being an operative who has to meet with Kennedy's father, and like he's more senior, but a young Stansfield kind of is running him and like telling him who he's going to meet with at the embassy in Beirut, and like how to watch his back and like look out for signs or like dead drops, right? Can you imagine like Kennedy's father doing a dead drop for somebody in the middle of Beirut? I just think it'd be crazy cool to see some of that.
That'd be cool to see.
Yeah. Well, I threw one out there, and a couple of people caught on. I wouldn't say it was trending or anything, but Wicker, man. Don't you want to know his journey to becoming the best sniper in the world? I'd love to hear about him, in the teams, which he's still active duty. So how he first got involved. I want to see some of these guys in high school, What were they doing with their friends before they signed up?
He reminds me of Chris Kyle, right? That's the guy from American Sniper.
Mm-hmm.
He reminds me of like that kind of character. Although Chris Kyle was huge, but
I was gonna say totally different in stature.
Yeah, Charlie Wicker is very small. Chris Kyle was like way too big to be a sniper. But I would love to just get a lot of the backstory on like him and who are the other like key players in.
The older ones were Hackett and Strobel.
Right.
So Hackett, the original SEALs with Coleman's company.
And welcome back to Rapp on Rapp Part 2.
Let's rap on rap, baby.
So today's Rapp on Rapp, we figured we would just talk about something that we actually are going to bring to the main pod, and this idea of like what's in a name, and in order to talk about the actual titles of the book, and to see, another thing we're eventually going to talk about or Rapp on Rapp about is our favorite book covers, and a lot of times in our book cover section we give one, maybe two, a lot of critiques.
Yeah.
But you can also do the same thing for the book titles and either give it praise or give it a critique and really break it down and like how actually does this book title come into play with this novel, or does it not at all, So I pose this question to you, Mike. Out of the books we've now covered,
mm-hmm.
are the first 5 in the Vince Flynn series. So term limits, transfer of power, third option, separation of power, executive power, as well as we did a little out of order. We went and read the latest of Kyle Mills, Lethal Agent and Total Power. So out of those 7, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What is your favorite title of the books we've read?
All right. There's probably a tie. Is that allowed? I think
sure. It's our podcast, so.
All right. Let me work backwards. Let me do some negativity here. I'm usually
yeah, that was going to be my my follow-up. It was all right. Give me your best one, and then I want to know your worst one.
Okay.
What do you think
I was
is
do like process
doesn't...
of elimination.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
All right. We only have 7, so.
All right, we only have 7. Here we go. I'm going to rule out executive power and separation of power. They were like akin to the power lines on the covers. They were kind of like not working for me. Executive power probably more so. I didn't see it. I'll leave it at that. Separation of power, there was a little bit going on there with
I'm guessing because like you have the Senate, because you have a senator versus the president, like that was the play. But yeah, yep. I get executive power. I didn't. Yeah. Besides the fact that like Mitch has executive power to do whatever he wants, like
yeah. I don't know. I didn't see such a connection there. And executive power is like the White House, or I would expect the West Wing or the executive branch to really like pull rank, like some judicial showdown where the executive branch wins out, or maybe like the whole Hank Clark storyline where, right, like he wants to become president, but he's still a senator. So, all right, we're both ruling those 2 out.
Executive power works better for separation of power, honestly.
It does. But yeah. It does. All right. So with those ruled out.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
I got to go with Vince's first 3 books. Killed it. So I'm between Term Limits, Transfer of Power, and Third Option. I think Term Limits is going to take the cake. And I know it was kind of after he wrote it. Not
what was the original title again?
Something Rising from the Shadows or something dumb, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. It was something like the editor had to be like, yeah. We're not going with that. You gotta have a better title.
Yeah, and then I had fun with Term Limits, playing with the idea of if real legislative term limits were enacted, if it was either a constitutional amendment and or the 50 states had their own legislation for limiting Congress people, I really played that out and thought this could do a lot of good in unlocking Washington and bringing power back to the people. So I like that title.
Well, I also think it's what probably out of the first 3 the best, because I don't think they ever actually talk about term limits in the novel. The only the term limits is brought up because the assassins are imposing.
Assassinations. Yeah.
They're those are the new term limits. You know what I mean? I guess they bring up the fact that they don't like that these politicians have been in office for so long, and that's why they're doing this, whatever. But it's that good duality in terms of not actually bringing it up. Whereas in the Third Option, they literally there's the whole first prologue is about what the third option is, and then
that's why if I went with a tie, just while you're on third option was going to be up there pretty much with Term Limits because of that opening prelude or the prologue, whatever it was. It just set up so well that this book is going to operate in that gray zone, that really badass, like the first option's diplomacy, second option's war. This one's going to be doing some shady shit in the middle. So Third Option was pretty good, pretty good for me too.
Right. And then Transfer of Power, obviously, is the whole book is about the changeover of an administration, right? So we're going to get that. Or we have a new president that just came in, right? Yeah. So
a little too on the nose for me, though. Like, you take over the White House, transfer of power.
Yeah. But honestly, for me, I really liked both of Lethal Agent and Total Power, and I would have to say Total Power wins it for me out of our 7, because really, I don't know, it just conveyed this idea, and it's not brought up in the novel, no one uses it as a catchphrase. Like, it just encompasses this idea of one, total, having the total power to get rid of all power, is the goal of our villain, right? I don't know. That's why I like. And then Lethal Agent is just there is this lethal agent out there, and also the lethal agent can kill the world's most lethal agent in Mitch Rapp. Can potentially kill
Yeah.
the world's most lethal agent like that. You can look
That
at
double
Lethal Agent
entendre.
and yeah, the double entendre with that one is great.
Thanks to you guys, I haven't read much during pandemic. I reread a bunch of the Rapp stuff because you guys were doing it. So I thought, like, you know what, I'm going to reread this and then hold the episodes and then, listen to them. I've been watching. I watched it. I'm about to watch my 250th movie.
I heard you say that on I think it was Social
Wow.
Network or one of these last episodes. I was
Yeah.
like, whoa, because
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. During quarantine, I started reading because of this podcast, and then people
Yeah,
same.
recommended things. Like I picked up Matthew Bentley, like you said. I picked up Chris Howdy. I picked up Jack Carr, and because of that, I've watched so much fewer movies than I had.
Yeah,
wanted
I'm
to.
the opposite. I think it's just I have a 1-year-old, so I think with books, I love to invest myself in books, and I think it was just between teaching and a pandemic world, I was just like,
That's a
I
lot.
can't.
That's a lot.
I need something that I can watch in one sitting and don't have to worry about being connected, because who knows what the next day is going to bring.
Yeah.
So I'm actually looking forward to. I mean, I read Total Power twice.
Yep.
Which mainly because I was interviewing Kyle, so I was like, I read it when the arc came, and then I'm like, all right, I really gotta
Exactly what I did.
reread this again.
Yep.
And then I actually read Matt Bentley's book that hasn't even, it's not even in arc form yet, because he and I are friends.
Huh.
So I've read The Neighborhood, and
I
that
saw that. I saw him post about
that is unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm excited because I picked up his book when I was at this bookshop a few weeks ago. Haven't gotten to it, but we started an author series where we're trying to
Yeah.
bring on more authors. So he's definitely on the list. I might reach out to or ask you if we can get a plug there.
I'll tell him. I told him I was coming on, so I said,
Cool.
I'll make sure I talk to him.
I tell him I have Overwatch. I really want to get to it. So.
Overwatch is one of those ones where I never knew him. David Brown actually sent me the book because I was a Rapp ambassador.
Oh, nice.
And he's like, hey, this is a new guy. You want to read this? This is the guy
Nice.
who signed. And now he's at a different publisher. And I read it. It was like Rapp. Nobody was writing
Yeah.
anything like what he was writing at that time.
Yeah.
And
That's like Ward Larson. Did you read
Yeah.
Ward? He had an arc and I applied for it and I said something like, hey, you want to come on the podcast? He's like, sure, I'll send you the arc. I thought it was amazing. This David
Yeah.
Slayton character.
So, but I read it and I didn't know, man. I was probably there was only about 10 of us maybe who got the arc. So, I mean, I read this before it was even nobody. And then he messaged me because I was one of the few people who read it. He's like, what do you think? But now, yeah, we talk about it. So I read wait till you read The Neighborhood.
Okay.
It's a new character. It's unbelievable. It's probably
Okay.
honestly the best book I read this year.
Wow. Okay.
It's like just,
All right,
it's so,
all right.
That's a
it's
statement.
very different in the genre.
I'm excited about that.
And there's a lot of stuff right now that's absolutely the same in the genre. It's like
That's true. A lot of the
same
cookie cutter
storyline,
stuff.
just the name of the major character is different, but it's all.
Yep.
But he'll definitely. I'll talk to him. He's awesome. Not shy. Let me put it.
Okay. I mean, I see some of his posts. He's a little outspoken on things. So yeah. Okay, I
Yeah,
get
he's
that.
not. But the fun thing about him is he doesn't care about outspoken. You could be
Good.
180 degrees different than him, which I am on some things, and he doesn't care. That's just him.
Well, it was great. It was great to finally meet you and talk to you.
It was great. You guys do awesome stuff. I love listening to you every week. So keep it up. You're doing such a great job.
You as well.
Hey, thank you.
Few podcasts get right into it like you guys and are this good this early. So you guys are doing awesome stuff.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate that. I
Thank
love
you.
shopping around on comm majors. I might not hit every one, but I like going back and just
You know what?
checking
That's the funny
archives.
thing. I always thought we had to be that, and I kind of like that we're not. I kind of like now that we have so many that you can just
Yep.
pick something and listen.
It's also exciting. You guys can market it like sometimes if I need a movie to watch or it's like a Friday night, we're like, what do we watch? I'll look for something you might have covered so that after I'm done, I get to listen to it. So it's also like
Right.
fun to pick and choose old movies.
Oh, I think that yours is one. It's like I love listening because I'm a huge Mission Impossible guy. I listen to like the Fuse podcast, but that's the same thing. Like their logo is like you guys have a great logo that people who are Mitch Rapp fans will know what it is. So you're almost willing, like it's that niche of a big enough niche that people will want that
Yep.
because they know what you guys are.
Right.
I went online. I'm like, there's this ambassador thing, which I didn't know about. And I never had social media. I'm like, there's a Mitch Rapp Twitter out there that I never heard of.
Yeah.
And I haven't been on Facebook in 7 or 8 years. I'm like, there's a whole Facebook thing going on.
No, it's a very, and I'm not in it that much, which might sound weird. Mainly because I have so much to do. I'm not, but it's a huge, there are people who are so invested in it that it's sometimes I feel guilty. Like, I'm like, I don't know how much of when they were like, oh, you're going to interview Kyle Mills. I'm like, sure, I'm not, probably people want to stick knives in my back. I'm like, they wanted the bookstore contacted me. I'm like, who is that? Like, out of the blue, they're like, yeah, we want you to interview Kyle Mills.
Wow.
Who are you?
That's crazy. It opens doors.
And it was like David's like, oh yeah, give him your name. I'm like, David. They're like, yeah, you're the rep for New England. You could just go do it. There's not many of you up there, so you do it. I'm like, people are gonna be pissed. I'm like, there are people who are like investing obscene amounts of money into their obsession with Mitch Rapp. I'm like, he's like, yeah, but you've been reading for 20 years. So
yeah, you earned it. You have the street cred.
You did a great job. You did a great job.
But he's just a great guy too. I mean,
he's an easy interview.
Yeah, he's very easy. I was really happy to do that. It was weird though. Live and doing anything live is
I don't think we could do the podcast live, Mike. Do you think so?
So we have to try. We promised our patrons they'd get to watch a live podcast.
We should do American Assassin live. We do every con major.
Ooh,
live.
that's a good job.
Your foray into live episodes.
That's a good idea.
For you guys, it would be really good because you have a following. What's that next step? You know, do we want to turn it into, like, we love doing it, which 125 episodes in, like, genuinely,
that's
like,
something.
I do most of the work, like I do most of the back end work. Like Katie, God bless her, which she's probably been the best thing that's happened to our show because it's so different than other shows because of her. But she'll just show up. Like she'll watch the movie. She'll walk in having done nothing before,
just ready to go. Exactly.
You gotta, and especially you guys. You're so, everybody's busy, right? And it's just, but you guys also have something that is like timeless. Like your discussion of those books. Like you can go back and listen to any of your episodes.
Yeah.
I think it'll be really interesting where you guys continue to go with it. Because you're going to you're kind of like Vince's books. You're going to be able to go back to listen to it based upon the book, but you take it in a lot of different directions.
You know, that was our initial idea of we wanted a compendium of the book. So like if you're a new reader and you just pick it up 5 years from now, rip through the series, well, you got 70, 80, whatever it's going to be podcasts to listen to while you do that, which could happen anytime.
You know what I think is really interesting though, with what you guys have, I felt it was like almost the same way that I felt when Ryan started The Real Book Spy, which is like, the most brilliant ideas are the ones where you're like, how the hell did I not do this? You know, like how the hell did I not do this? Yep. Like when Ryan was talking about I'm like, that is, how has nobody else done this? And then having the stick with it, like people were constantly saying like, oh, we'll buy you out, Ryan, or we'll be a partner with you. And he had like faith in what he was going to do.
Keep the faith.
Continued to build it, and it's at its core, when you think about what The Real Book Spy like site is, it's so simple that nobody, like with you guys, like how is with all these podcasts?
I was shocked there was no Mitch Rapp podcast.
That was the moment when Chris and I were initially like, hey, quarantine podcast on something. I think I brought it up at one of our friends' hangouts. I was like, I want to do a podcast, and we all had just dumb ideas, and we were like, screw that, we're moving on. A pizza, But then when I went to Apple Podcasts and I searched Vince Flynn, because I was getting it ready for Lethal Agent or whatever it was at the time, I guess Total Power, and I searched Vince Flynn and zero. The results were zero.
I know, it's crazy.
And then I searched Mitch Rapp and it was like 2 interviews. Like Kyle did 2 interviews or something, and I'm like, there's nothing.
One of the things I've learned in the last stretch of, which is really weird because I've never written a book, never even thought about writing a book, is like getting to know some of these authors now, how weird the publishing industry is. It is weird. It is a
Strange.
weird industry, and people who we think would be like, this guy's a New York Times bestseller. Like, no, man, nobody's lining up to interview him.
Yeah.
Nobody's. I mean, they will go on anything and everything. I mean, except for like Dan Brown, because the guy just prints money. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
like most other people, they're like, I remember like meeting Steve Berry. I met all these guys who come
I
up the
love
block,
Steve Barry.
and it's like literally, I went up to meet him because I loved his stuff, and I was like, it was me. I was sitting in the front row, and we were having like a personal conversation.
Wow.
David Riccardi came up, and I went. I was like, they sent me an arc, so I read it, and I'm like, I'm gonna go. It was me and his kids. His
Wow.
kid
Wow.
went to like Harvard,
That's
and one went
crazy.
to you. It's his family and me.
That's crazy. Thanks for coming
Loved
on.
it, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed this content. And remember, if you did enjoy these discussions and want to get full access to the Rap on Rap podcast series, consider becoming a patron. Help support the podcast. You guys, our patrons, are the reason we are able to keep this show alive and keep it ad-free. So if you are interested in joining, just go to mitchrappod.com and click the orange Support Us on Patreon button. Don't forget, you'll also get other perks like your Mitch Rap Pod stickers, a rap reading list bookmark and checklist, and as always, 25% off any t-shirts or hoodies in our Mitch Rap Pod Teespring online store. So 25% off for our patrons on any order. Next week, with fingers crossed, I hope a healthy Chris and I will be breaking down what a lot of us rap heads consider the most important rap novel in the series, Consent to Kill. It's a real game changer. It really does a lot to alter rap's course and the entire course of the series, as well as the thriller genre as a whole. What a shock it was what Vince was able to pull off in Consent to Kill. Really a piece of art. So look forward to that next week. And as always, we want to thank our patrons, including our special operator, Sherry F., along with our special agents, George, Matt, Dawn, Dennis, Peggy, Catherine, Ray, Bridget, and Jeff. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review us using your favorite podcasting platform. You can find us online at mitchrappod.com or using the Twitter or Instagram handle at mitchrappod. And as always, just let Mitch be Mitch.
Just a disclaimer, this podcast is not affiliated with Vince Flynn, Kyle Mills, or Simon & Schuster, but thank you to them for bringing us the wonderful world of rap. And the music soundtrack is Guerrilla Tactics by Raphael Crooks.